Hi there you, my name is Melissa. Welcome to my channel, Mel's Gluten-Free Symphony. Big hugs and kisses for clicking on my recipe video. I am so excited to share this recipe with you. Who doesn't love a street-style juicy chicken Frankie? Not only is the wrap gluten-free, but also the masala. Keep watching to know more. Let's begin with the roti. I've got 60 grams of rice flour here, and to that I'm adding 40 grams of jawar flour and 1/8 teaspoon salt. Once you've got your dry ingredients, whisk it till everything is well combined. Now it's dough time. In a saucepan over a medium-high flame, bring 180 grams of water to a rolling boil, after which topple in your dry ingredients. Then using a wooden spoon, I prefer using a wooden spoon because it provides a better grip and conducts heat a lot slower than steel. I like to keep my hands at body temperature. Anyway, stir the dough till it becomes a lumpy mixture, making sure there are no dry patches. Next, we need to knead and shape our dough. Empty out the lumpy mixture onto a large plate. It makes it easier to gather all the smaller lumps. Now begin kneading your dough. I'm using both my hands to do the job initially, as it's quicker to just get all the smaller lumps to stick together. You could knead your dough in whatever way you like. I'm not imposing any roti directives here. Now just give it a more or less even long sausage shape. This makes it easier to divide the dough into equal parts. This recipe yields 3 large rotis. I tried to get 4, as you can tell by the already floured platform. However, I found that 4 made each too small for my kind of loaded wraps. So 3 it is. Shape each section into a smooth ball and you're ready to start rolling. Sprinkle some rice flour on your surface and using a rolling pin, roll out your dough. Keep turning the disc while you roll in order to get an almost circular flatbread. Don't worry about the jagged edges. It's expected when there's no gluten to stretch and even out your dough structure. Also, while preparing the roti for the finished Frankie, I'll be adding a beaten egg to the pan that will also help even out the edges. Once you're done rolling out your dough, keep a plate ready for stacking your rotis. I've placed a small piece of parchment paper to prevent the dough from sticking to the plate. I'll also be layering the paper between every roti. You could use rice flour to prevent them from sticking, but I found that there's a fine line between too much and too little. Either the rotis will dry out or they'll stick to each other. So a combination of paper and rice flour works best for me. Now gently wrap the roti around the rolling pin as I am doing here and unravel it onto your plate. Continue working on your dough till you've rolled out and stacked all your rotis. Now we move on to preparing the Frankie masala base for the chicken. You'll need 3 medium-sized onions weighing approximately 240 grams, 2 medium-sized tomatoes approximately 170 grams, 6 medium-sized garlic cloves, that's roughly 10 grams. I recently began weighing my garlic as well because the inconsistency in sizes drove my compulsive side a little crazy. I also began using this extremely handy pre-cleaned garlic, which has saved me a lot of my cleaning and prep time. No promos here guys, just wanted to share the convenience this brought me. You'll also need 1/2-inch piece of ginger, that's approximately 4 grams, and 1 large green chili. I'm using the medium spicy variety here. Okay, now let's do a quick run through of the prep work required for these veggies. First, you'll need to peel and wash your onions. To peel the onions, I'm using a small sharp knife and I'm also cutting away those muddy roots. After this, you need to thoroughly wash your onions. Next, you need to finely slice them. But before that, chop the tops of the onions. I recently found out that they are called tunics. I hope that's how it's pronounced and I really hope that's what it's called. If not, you guys will correct me, I'm sure. Then cut out the disc located at the base of the onion. Now watch as I slice an onion in mid-air. Okay, I got you, didn't I? No party tricks here guys, just some vanilla cooking. Anyway, this frees up the internal layers of the onions, making it easier to stir during cooking as well as preventing any unwanted texture profile. So once you're done with slicing your onions, keep them aside. Now we'll be prepping the garlic and ginger. For the garlic, cut out those base discs. Then give them a fine rough chop. Go crazy with your knife skills, but make sure no one's fingers are in the way. And for the ginger, you'll need to peel the skin first. I prefer using a small sharp knife or spoon to scrape the skin away. A regular peeler tends to peel the skin along with some flesh, which is more than necessary. After removing the skin, grab your trusty grater and grate that ginger. Okay, next are those plump tomatoes. First, slice them in half and cut out the base of the stem. Be careful, guys. Place it on a chopping board. There's no need to follow my lead here. I'm just comfortable cutting it out this way. Now you gotta slice them. For this recipe, slice them as you did the onions, i.e. lengthwise. The finer the slices, the shorter the cook time. So I like to slice tomatoes keeping the fleshy side up. It makes it easier to get thin slices. Once they're cut, keep them aside. Lastly, finely slice your green chili. I usually slice mine lengthwise down the center first, remove the stem, and then chop it finely laterally. Chop it however you like, but it must be finely chopped, unless you like big bursts of heat on your tongue. When you're done, keep that aside with the tomatoes. Now it's cook time! Over a medium flame, heat 1 tablespoon of ghee. Then toss in your chopped garlic and ginger and cook till all the raw aroma has dissipated. It should take roughly 3 to 4 minutes. Then toss in your sliced onions and add a wee bit of salt. This helps break down those onion fibers a lot quicker and add some delicious flavor to your masala base. Saute your onions till they turn glassy and turn almost transparent. It should take roughly 6 to 8 minutes. Now toss in your tomatoes and chili. I like some pieces of tomato to hit the base of that hot vessel before stirring them in. Some pieces get nice and seared this way. So stir them in, cover it, and cook it down. Covering it with a lid reduces the overall cook time. But make sure to keep stirring intermittently to ensure the tomatoes cook evenly. Cook till all the tomatoes have softened up. This should take about 10 to 12 minutes over a medium flame. While the tomatoes are cooking down, this gives you ample amount of time to prep your chicken. I've got 500 grams of boneless chicken breasts here. I guess you could use boneless chicken legs as well, except the cook time drastically increases as leg meat tends to have tougher fibers, which take a little longer to break down. Now using a sharp knife, cut up the chicken into small bite-sized pieces. I'm simply dicing it, you could however also slice it. Now that your chicken is all prepped, let's check on our tomatoes, shall we? Press a couple of pieces against the inner wall of your vessel to check whether it's turned soft and pulpy. Once you're satisfied with the softness, topple in your chicken followed by the spices. Add half teaspoon black salt, quarter teaspoon turmeric powder, 1 teaspoon coriander powder, 1 teaspoon cumin powder, 1 teaspoon garam masala. Make sure it's gluten-free, 1 tablespoon mango powder and 1 tablespoon red chili powder. Now just combine that goodness together, making sure all the chicken pieces are coated in these delicious aromatic spices. Cover it with a lid and let it cook for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Toss it around every 5 minutes or so. This helps distribute the heat and cook the chicken evenly. Now remember, breast meat is super tender and cooks very fast. If your pieces are smaller, it might cook in lesser time. I suggest you check a piece or two about 12 minutes into the cook time. If you've noticed, I've not added any water here, since this lid does a good job with trapping the moisture. But if you feel some water is required, maybe add around 30 to 50 ml. Any more and you'll end up with a partial gravy-like consistency, because the chicken releases some water as well during cooking. Check to see if your chicken pieces are cooked through, just as we did with the tomatoes, by pressing a few pieces against the inner wall of your vessel. Once it's fully cooked, cover it with a lid and set it aside. I've got some simple garnishes. That's right guys, even a Frankie needs garnishes. So I've got a small onion here, that's roughly 65 grams. I'll be finely dicing it. So for that, you don't need to remove the disc at the base. It holds all the layers together, which makes finely dicing an onion a relatively easier task. After chopping it in half, place the flat side down with the stem side facing you and make lengthwise cuts all along the onion, leaving as little gap between each cut as possible. Now turn the onion 90 degrees. If you're right-handed, then face the stem side towards your right, and if you're left-handed, face the stem side towards your left. Now cut perpendicular to the lengthwise cuts you just made. Follow these steps with the other half and you've got yourself a finely diced onion. Okay, look, I have to confess, I love cheese. all sorts of cheese. Stringy cheese, stinky cheese, I love it all. So I decided to just add a smidgen of cheese to my Frankie. Now, of course, if you want to make it a loaded cheesy Frankie, then be my guest and go all out. I like the certain salty, creamy balance it adds to this spiced dish. So I just grated 60 grams of mild cheddar cheese, which I think is sufficient for 2 Frankies. Now just keep that aside because we're going to cook that roti. Before we begin, I like to add a beaten egg while cooking my wrap. It brings back so many fond memories of rushing to munch down on some freshly made hot chicken Frankie on a rainy day and watching those cooks clanking it out behind those scalding tawas. To me, a Frankie wrap isn't complete without an egg. Now season with some salt and pepper, and to make things a little fluffier, I've added a teaspoon of milk. Whisk it together till it's more or less combined. This egg is sufficient for one wrap. Now, over a medium flame, heat some ghee or oil. Spread it around so it coats the entire pan. Then very gently lift your uncooked wrap and place it in the hot pan. Press it down slightly to ensure the entire roti is coming in contact with the pan. After around 2 to 3 minutes, you'll notice that the roti is beginning to puff up. Flip it and once again press it down lightly, especially the edges as they have a tendency to curl up. Now add a little bit more ghee or oil on this top surface. It just makes the entire roti taste very wholesome and helps retain the moisture. After another 2 to 3 minutes, flip it once more and add a little bit more ghee on this side as well. Next, pour the eggy mixture over the roti and spread it out till it covers all the edges. You could gracefully swirl the pan to distribute the beaten egg or spread it around in a savage fashion like I am here. Once the edges of the eggy mixture are leaving the pan, gently go around making sure nothing is getting stuck and using your spatula, flip it. The egg probably requires less than a minute to cook from now. Wow, look at that delectable golden brown color. I'd have that roti plain, but then again, I am a little vanilla. But you guys out there surely love your spice. Now just flip it once more to check if all the egg is cooked. If so, place it in your serving plate and it's ready to be assembled. Spoon that juicy spiced chicken mix on your roti. Place it along the diameter of the roti, but push it a little towards one arc so that it becomes easier to wrap over. Sprinkle some of that finely diced raw onion and that salty cheddar cheese over the chicken. Now I popped it in the microwave for less than 30 seconds to just about melt that cheese. But you could do as you like. To wrap it, lift the closest arc and curl the roti over the filling. Mine clearly wasn't pushed too far from the diameter. Anyway, gently wrap it and your homemade gluten-free chicken Frankie is finished. Thank you so much for being here and watching my recipe video when you could have been doing anything else. So like and subscribe for more tantalizing food. I'm diving in now, guys. The beaten egg gives this wrap a light, crisp texture. And the chicken is so tender. The pungency and crunch of the raw onions against the salty cheese makes this one wholesome wrap. Okay, I can go on and on about how fulfilling this is. But if you want to experience this explosion of perfectly balanced spices and textures on your tongue, you have to try it out. Run along to your local bazaar. Wait, what am I saying? You probably have all these ingredients already. So no more excuses then. Follow the recipe and you're a few steps away from creating your very own Mumbai style juicy chicken Frankie. Happy cooking! Bye-bye!